What up, YouTube? This is Steven Talbert. This is TalbyReacts. So today I wanted to really talk about kind of the biggest story that came today, which was Hideo Kojima has basically officially left Konami, although pretty much what we know. So there was a story recently that from the New Yorker of all places, which is really bizarre. I just love how the news is getting reported. But the New Yorker basically stated that I think on October 9th, basically Hideo Kojima there was a big party, had 100 people there, and basically everybody said their respects to Hideo Kojima, and he's gone. Although what I did find ironic about that story was like they kind of pointed out the two presidents, the CIO and the president of Konami, pretty much was not there kind of to celebrate Hideo Kojima, which is kind of funny because pretty much Kojima pretty much built Konami, like if you like it or not. Like he was there for 30 years. You know, he has had, 5 pretty much rock solid games, and actually 7 if you count the 2 minor, the 2 Nintendo games that came before it. And so it's real surprising that they didn't celebrate it. So once again, shame on Konami. What I really wanted to talk about today was just kind of the future of Kojima. Where do I think he's headed? I kind of want to kind of make my predictions, like where do I think where he will land up in a couple of months. And so in the end of this, at the start of December, I believe, is when he can start finding jobs, if I'm not mistaken, and that's kind of the part of the deal. And so I honestly think there's about 2 or 3 decisions that he has to make. One, I think the first biggest decision is, does he want to join a first party company? I think all these options, he's going to get a ton of money. Whether if he goes with there's 3 options. There's the first party, there's joining a third party company, or just making a game by himself. I think all of them are pretty valid options. The first option we're going to look at is, will he join a first party company? So will he join Sony or Microsoft is what it really goes down to. And I honestly don't really see him joining Microsoft per se, because if you look at just how badly Microsoft has done in Japan, and just kind of his appeal, Microsoft should have the biggest want to take Kojima in, and I could see them giving the same treatment they give Halo and Gears of War, giving him his own studio and letting him make a really good real solid game. But I could see the same factor that makes Microsoft want to hire him also make Kojima not want to hire him, like make Kojima want to walk away, because I just think his audience in Japan would not just want to follow him there. I think the most logical and that one that makes the most sense would be Sony, because if you just think about Metal Gear Solid 5 and its history with Sony, like it was pretty much the Metal Gear Solid 1 was pretty much the rare game for the PlayStation, and then Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 did really well on the PS2, and so there's a very good track record of him working with Sony. Just in the past with those set of games and stuff like that, it would make sense. There's a lot of great production studios. There's when I'm thinking about kind of studios where he would join and kind of come in, if you think about it, there's not a whole lot of studios. I think Guerrilla Studios, we already see with what they got with their latest project, so that's pretty much locked in with that. I don't see him joining a group like Naughty Dog, because I think they'll definitely go to Last of Us 2. Where I would see is probably Studio Japan most likely. They did Bloodborne, and then I think they're looking on their latest game, which they're going to complete fairly soon. So that's a possibility, but you never know. I would honestly say him joining a first party, I would say that's actually the lowest percentage of him joining it. I don't think that's going to happen too very much. I think the most likely scenarios he would join a third-party studio. I was thinking about kind of who is a contender in this race. I've basically narrowed it down to about 4 different companies. The first 2 companies are these 2 Japanese companies that would probably make logical sense. The first one is From Software, who made Bloodborne, and who has done the Dark Souls series. It's done by Miyazaki. The company's run by Miyazaki, who's been pretty influential. And a lot of people have wondered, like, if, you know, I've always wanted other games put with, put other games with their engine and how it would look and so like that. And they're very much an up and coming area, just especially with their hit with Bloodborne. I think it would be great to add those 2 great, 2 great minds and put them together. The one I would think is probably the most coolest idea would be put them with Platinum Games. Allow Kojima to join Platinum Games. And why would this be so good? Like From Software, they're an up-and-coming developer. You know, they started in 2006 and made several really good games. They made Bayonetta, games like Vanquish, but recently they kind of fall short. They had a game, Korra, Transformers. I wouldn't call them falling short, but it is not a great game. But they also have Scalebound and Star Fox. They're developed from both Microsoft and Nintendo. And so what's cool about them is they have already a really good director that works for them, but adding a second one, like if you look across Japan, like the developer that I keep seeing the most of is Platinum Games, in terms of just them making games, a lot of them, and producing a lot. And what's really interesting about them is they actually have a Metal Gear connection, because if you look in their other catalog, they did make Metal Gear Solid Resurgence or something like that, which is, everybody calls it kind of a rip-off game, but it was a game that really took place in their Metal Gear Solid timeline, which means they've already worked with Kojima personally, which could point out that this could be a really good pairing of both Kojima and Platinum Games. And I think that honestly would be the coolest move I would see from them. The next 2, my next 2 are the Western developers. To me, Ubisoft fits the mold of Kojima. Like when I look at games like Watch Dogs and stuff like that, I really see I could see Kojima doing that. Ubisoft really has a feeling of a Kojima type of game. But really, who I really think comes victorious in all of these, in terms of Western developers, is EA Games. I really do think EA Games is, if it's not Platinum Games, it's going to be EA. The reason I think EA Games, because I was really thinking about it, like recently EA Games has signed a 10-year deal with Star Wars to make Star Wars games. And what's really important about this is not the fact that they're making Star Wars games, although, there's some good stuff. But what I really see about EA is they're going to make a ton of money. Like Battlefield will make a ton of money. I see that. Amy Hennick's game, who's working for EA right now, when she rolls out the next Star Wars game, that's going to make a ton of money. And so they are going to have a ton of capital to kind of invest. And what's been really said recently about EA is they want to make more action games. And I can see Hideo Kojima coming into that role and say, I can make you a really solid action game. And like, we've also seen that EA is one of the ones that are willing to take risk and are they have a lot of capital, and so they don't care about, per se, timelines, as long as it gets done eventually. And so I could see them come in like, we'll give you X amount of years to work on it, and we'll fund you pretty good. We'll give you a ton of cash. And so I could see Kojima accepting that deal and being part of EA. I think one of the two, I think honestly Platinum Games and EA are my 2 where I would probably like to see it, where I realistically see them. I see them realistically with EA. because I think Platinum provides that Kojima, like if you look at games like Mad World or Vanquish or just these other games that are done by their great director, it feels more Kojima-ish. And so I think that's where I think he would do the best is Platinum Games, but I think EA would probably win at the end. But guys, I just want to know, what do you think? Do you see him signing with a third party games? Because I think that's honestly the most likeliest. But I do think there's a possibility that a first party like Microsoft and Sony, especially if Microsoft just wants to pour a lot of money in him, I think I could definitely see him joining them, especially if you give them a lot of freedom. Especially if they want to win, that Japanese crowd. Although it just depends how quick do they think the Xbox One could die in Japan. And so I think that's also a real possibility. Or you could find Sony, like, because just did pedigree and stuff like that. I see that also happening as well. And maybe him even developing independent games. Guys, just what are your thoughts? Comment about this. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching TalbyReacts. I hope you like it and subscribe to my channel. And thank you.